Central motif of Parshat Noach is the Mabul, the flood that came, the deluge to destroy the entire world. And the one individual that stands out, that is saved in this situation, is Noach. And the Parsha opens by telling us what was the characteristics of Noach that make him so special. That Noach was an ish tzaddik, he was a righteous person. Tamim haya b'dorotav, he was somebody who was pure, wholesome in his generations. And Telokim italech Noach, Noach was somebody who walked with God. Having said this, a person may ask themselves very simply, well, to be a righteous person, to be a tzaddik, to be a tamim, is something very difficult to reach. It's very hard for us, even though it's a goal to aspire to ever be on the level of Noach. But we therefore find another pasuk. It happens to be the last pasuk in Parshat Breshit that gives us another sense of who Noach was, and it gives us a sense of for what merit was Noach saved. And I think it offers us perhaps a more reasonable goal to reach in terms of what to aspire toward, that we too can be saved from the deluge that surrounds us in the immoral world that we live in. And that pasuk, which is found at the end of source number 1, the pasuk tells us when Hashem says, I will blot out man whom I created from the face of the ground, from man to animal to creeping things and to birds of the sky, for I have reconsidered my having made them. The pasuk tells us, V'Noach matzah chen b'nei Hashem. But Noach found grace in the eyes of Hashem. And the question that I'd like to ask today is, what is this midah? What is this aspect of matzah chen, of finding grace in the eyes of Hashem? In fact, the Ramban in source number 2 points out that this is a general chen, it's a general favor. And it's really very much connected to what we find in the beginning of our parsha of being a tzaddik. It's just another aspect of the sitkus, of the righteousness of Noach, that in all of his actions he was matzah chen, he found favor. But pushing this a bit further, I'd like to ask ourselves, is there a specific quality in matzah chen, in finding favor? For what merit was Noach saved, that perhaps we can aspire that we too can find this chen, this favor, this grace in the eyes of Hashem? The second question I'd like to raise in this parsha
should be going now.
Is that Noach could have been saved in any form and shape. Kadosh Baruch Hu could have had him been sitting in his house, and his house could have turned into a boat, and he could have just, set sail the entire year. Why was it necessary for Noach specifically to be in a teva and an ark, and specifically with all of these animals? We know, our rabbis tell us, and we'll talk about Amir Hashem a little bit later today, that Noach did not sleep for the entire year. There are nocturnal animals who need to be fed at night. There are animals who need to be fed on all different schedules. What was Noach and his family doing in the ark the entire year? They were zookeepers. They were taking care of the animals. They did not have a moment rest. In fact, the Medrash tells us that when Noach was late to feed the lion, he walloped him and he came out limping, Noach. This was a very difficult and challenging year. The second question I'd like to ask is, what was the reason that Noach needed to be among the animals for the entire year? And as always, there are many answers to all of these questions. I'd like to, Mirz Hashem, today to take really two approaches that are really two sides of one idea. In order to appreciate what was the Noach matzah chen b'nei Hashem, what was the quality of Noach, we need to understand what was the generation that Noach lived in, and what was their sin that caused their downfall. And then Noach becomes the epitome of somebody who was able not to fall into that same, and those same sins. So when we look at the Chumash itself, we see that they were involved in immoral acts. The sons of God, whoever they may be, saw the daughters of the land and took them. We also see in our parsha v'tachamas asher b'kapeihem, which we understand as robbery that was in their midst. When you look at the text, they seem to be, these were the major sins that the Dor Mabul, the generation of the flood, were involved with. Halakach v'alibov Rav Shor, however, notes that there was a sin, there was a fault that preceded these, that it's that fault that then leads down to the slippery slope. And as we've spoken about in Elul, it's so crucial to find what is the core sin, that then we can understand, if we can stop ourselves at the core, then the rest of the sins won't follow suit. With this in mind, we find something very interesting in the Mishnah.